Welcome to another episode of Health Hustle Chronicles, where the grind meets growth in the world of healthcare. As you know, this ain't your typical podcast because I bring you some of the freshest, some of the livest guests from around the world, Craig. And today we have a special guest, Lori Beth Irvin. A little bit about Lori. Lori Beth Irvin, she's an award-winning global marketing executive with over 20 years of healthcare experience and has dedicated over a decade to senior living and senior healthcare. Having been a caregiver herself to many generations of family, including her mother, Lori Beth is dedicated to advancing outcomes for older adults. Lori Beth, she's a founder and CEO of LBIngenuity, which is an LLC, a boutique marketing consultancy agency specializing in aging industry. Lori Beth, she shaped and scaled a variety of organizations throughout her career of care continuum with smart growth marketing strategies. Please put your hands together. Let's welcome Lori Beth Irvin to the show. There she is.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for that really glowing introduction.
Thank you. And I'm sure you've heard this a lot of times, but let me be probably the 12th person in your family to say, Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you. Happy 2025. Hey, it's going to be a great year, I think, though. We're rolling into it. It's getting really busy. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be amazing. And guess what? We get to kick off the year with a little discussion to help us realize more about who you are and the impact that you're trying to make specifically in healthcare. So I'm excited to have you on the show. I know tons of people that are going to glean tons of insight from this commentary as well. So once again, welcome to the show. Let's kick this thing off. Lori Beth, tell us, who are you personally? Introduce yourself.
Hey, well, after that glowing, I don't know if I can follow that glowing introduction you just gave.
It's all you.
But basically, I'm just me, Lori Beth, and I have been in healthcare marketing for, I don't want to totally date myself, but over 20 years. We won't say how many over, but just say it's on up there. And the last 10 years, or 10 to 12 years, I've worked exclusively in senior healthcare. And I have a passion to help make healthcare better overall, but especially for the aging industry. I feel like, and you kind of know this too, Patrick, as you've worked in it as well for over the years too. We've crossed paths. It's doing the best by older adults, but there's a lot of room to grow, and the industry in itself has grown a lot, especially in the past 10 years that I've been in there. But it's just great to see it moving in the right direction because we have so many older adults to serve now.
Awesome. So professionally, let's fast forward to your professional background. You talked about this marketing, you own a business, you spent 20 years in healthcare, specifically in senior living, right? In senior healthcare. So talk more about that for me.
Yeah, so my journey kind of started with my own health issues in the early 20s, and right when you thought you were going to start a career and wasn't going to have anything, you're fearless and ready to take on the world. And I'm from those that know me or may not know me if listening to the podcast, I'm from a very small town in Northeast Georgia. So very rural community, especially at the time I was growing up. It's grown a lot now. But a lot of challenges there with access to care, getting the right resources from the right provider at the right time. And, healthcare in more secluded areas may not be the cream of the crop. We did have Emory University in Atlanta to go to for more big chronic conditions, but it wasn't easy getting there over the years. So I had this health crisis in my early 20s and had these conditions that I have learned to live with over the years. And that piqued my interest in healthcare because it was so frustrating and disappointing every time I went to another doctor's appointment and couldn't get answers, or the patient experience was hard to navigate as a 20-something-year-old. And then, of course, life would turn. Ended up being helping with caregiving for both sides of my grandparents. In the South, we're really taking care of our own. Back then, we had hardly zero assisted living. And we all kind of lived together and communed together and nestled together. So, I got to be a caregiver to my grandparents on both sides, which was a gift that I was able to do for them. And then my mother, when she was only 62 years old, fast forward when I was in my late 30s, had a terminal illness. So she was diagnosed with a terminal illness. No one saw it coming. It was out of the blue. And again, turning back into caregiver crisis mode is what I was doing. So having all of these unfortunate events really shaped the reason that I was always interested and had, I'll say, marketing, advertising roles, for lack of a better word, creative roles in healthcare. But that really fueled my interest into figuring out how I, as a marketing professional, and at that time a really creative marketing professional, could help with some of these gaps that I was having as a patient, or that my mother and my grandparents were facing with a lot of their things. So marketing made marketing to a way to help businesses bridge gaps and better connect with people that they serve. So I think sometimes people don't understand the value of marketing, and it has grown dramatically over the past 15 years, especially after the pandemic and within senior healthcare space. Particularly, people are now open to the idea and the benefits of what marketing can provide. But also it's an education piece and communication piece really for every stakeholder in a healthcare organization to make care better for the end product, which is the patient or resident, if we're talking about senior living.
There's a lot to go off of in
there. On that.
There's so much. It's so juicy already. So I'm trying to figure out which way I want to go with this. All right, let me just recap really quick. Small town, Georgia, rural area. You didn't have great access to quality healthcare. You had aging grandparents who you stepped in to kind of be a caregiver for. Then later, your mom, at the age of 62, she had a terminal illness that you stepped in to help for as well. And then all of that, you still was rising through the ranks, becoming this healthcare executive with a focus on marketing. You really feels like you're trying to impact, I guess, healthcare by helping them tell the story with an impact of helping older adults. Did I sum that up right?
Yeah, that was a great summary. It's just telling the story and telling it in different ways, and realizing that there's a lot of ways you can slice and dice a story.
Sure.
But it's how you tell a story to what people to gain attention that you need to make real change, if that makes sense.
Right. So let me also go back really quick. You said your mom was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Is she still with us today?
No, she's not. She passed at 63. When she got the diagnosis of the ripe old age, or young age, I'll say now, as I'm getting close to 50, at 62, it was a rare form of leukemia, and it kind of blindsided the family, because even though her side of the family had a lot of cancer diagnoses and the older members of generations, no one had leukemia, and this happened to be, unfortunately, a very rare, fast-acting survivability rate is low for this type of leukemia. So they gave her a prognosis of 3 months, and we did everything that we can to prolong her life during that time, and going to Mayo and coming up. Now I'm here in Chicago, coming up here to cancer treatment centers and, MD Anderson, and really trying to reach out to the top providers of cancer to get help. And ultimately, it did extend her life, but she only really was with us about 12 months instead of the 3.
Wow. But I mean, I'm sure because of your support, the family support, you were able to extend her life with us in this world and make it a lot more enjoyable. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, it was quality of life for her. It was very painful. I guess blood cancer, who knew, was a very painful type of cancer. So making her comfortable and, making lasting memories too within her last year, and doing some things that we had put off doing.
Absolutely. So you found healthcare, and what I would like to help the viewers, the listeners, tap into is that hustler's journey. I'm not quite sure how you found healthcare, but as you know, there's no straight line to success, right? Oftentimes we have to jump over hurdles. We have to borrow sugar from our neighbors, and we have to take out loans doing this. We have to just do strange things to get to that level of success that we all aspire to get to. So I would love to know, your hustler's journey, some of those setbacks, outside of, we talked about your grandparents or your mom, some of those setbacks, those pitfalls that you have to navigate in order to become successful healthcare executive.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say I had no plan. I had no planned path. I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, and that's where I wanted to be, and surrounding by innovation, at least at a minimum, and started out in PR there. and worked in and out of different, I'll say, healthcare scenarios, health systems, working for the state of Georgia and public-private health, physician offices. And a lot of time, as you know, too, a challenge with healthcare marketing in particular is it's the salesperson is the marketer, or the marketer is the salesperson. You're doing both roles. And I am typically, or never saw myself as a salesperson. I was the marketer. I went to school for graphic design because I didn't want to have to talk to anybody ever.
Right.
I wanted to be behind the screen. But when I landed into healthcare marketing, I was hired for marketing because they needed a lot of the things that my creative background could provide, and write press releases and crisis communication, but they also needed business development and sales. And at first I was like, I don't really think I can do that part, but I grew into it. And there was a little, you figure out the ways that work for you with that. And a lot of it is, people say, which is true, sales is number one, relationship building. And I've always had the ability to connect with people, and people want to tell me their stories, and they want to tell me, all of their burdens. And that's a great, I guess, ability. And I didn't realize how well it was going to work for me in this particular role. But yeah, so, I really didn't have a plan. I was just taking job to job and trying to get to the next level of what I was thinking at each year was success, or how I was defining success. In my caregiving days when I was in Georgia, I was working probably at not my 100% because I was caregiving there on the side of things. So escalating my professional career during some of those years was not a priority. Healthcare was, even for myself or others. And then I landed in Illinois. Like, my mother passed. I needed a fresh start. I landed in Illinois. I got a job at a retirement community at their corporate branch. And it just so happened that year that they were doing an integration. So they had the senior care extensions, which was the home health, private duty, and hospice, and they were rolling it into one brand. So I was hired to help with that and be a full-time marketing professional. And from there, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know any of these things existed, especially when we were growing up in the sticks. We didn't have access to things like that. And I just thought it was great. So I absorbed everything I could. And it kind of went fast. Like, I will say the past 6 years of professional growth has been fast. I don't know how else to say it. It's not anything that I'm doing that's extra special than anyone else. I just kind of feel like it was my determined path to be on, and somehow I just kind of landed into it. But just kept taking roles and expanding my knowledge and getting more interested and meeting more people that, from senior living, care. And, we're all a kind of inclusive bunch, don't you say?
I would agree. Yeah.
Those relationships follow you, and it's almost like being part of a family, which is what I really like too, especially about the senior healthcare side of the house. So kind of just landed into getting some consulting jobs on the side when I was always carrying full-time jobs for extra money. And then, I just decided, hey, what am I waiting for? My mother didn't live as long of a life as she anticipated. So if not now, when? I started my own business. And, entrepreneurs, I think, will say, you wish you had done it sooner. You'd wish you had, but it is like stepping off of a cliff and hoping that you're going to survive. But if you survive, it's the best risk you'll ever take. So
absolutely. I love the growth that you've been sharing, how there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Self-investment, right? You continue to reinvest and invest in yourself to help you scale and elevate in these different positions as well. You talked about finding healthcare, but what led to healthcare being that industry that you really wanted to be in?
I think it kind of just went back to it chose me. I think if I hadn't have been affected personally by having my own health crisis, even if take the caregiving off the table, if I hadn't have been affected by having these health challenges, it wouldn't have to be like, oh my gosh, now I have to work in healthcare. Like, it could have been marketing any other product or service. It could have been working for Nike or working for, a beverage company or, whatever. But I really, those, when I was in my 20s and affected by all of those scenarios, it really affected you and changed you. And you were like thinking, hey, this can be better. It should be better. I want it to be better as a patient. Organizations want it to be better for their patients. So I really just need to interject myself into this industry and get enmeshed and figure out what to do. So that's just kind of how it's worked. But I will say, like you said, the path to success isn't necessarily linear, and it's
Right.
okay if you don't have a plan. I had no plan up until about 8 years ago. I had no trajectory. I was just going with the flow and learning all I could. And trying to be of service.
So what was that pivotal moment for you that led you to say, you know what, I can do this and I can do it by myself without the help of a corporation, where you just became your own entrepreneur?
Well, I think the pandemic opened everybody's eyes to opportunities and possibility, because it gave us a whole year to reflect on things. And the good thing that it did for marketing was it allowed people who had historically been doing things a little bit more the outdated way, or what I'll say, a little bit harder way of doing things, which we've all done, and realizing that, okay, if I can't go see anybody and knock door to door like I used to, and go out to events, I've got to figure out other ways to reach people. So that opened the door to possibility. Like, okay, this pandemic, although as bad and challenging as it was for us when we were sequestered at home, it really did something great for marketing and the marketing segment of not only healthcare, but any company really, because it challenged people that had been objecting to having marketing, or not really even understanding what marketing
Right.
involves, and making the change to adopt it. So that was probably a pivotal moment, especially a pivotal industry moment. And although I had some other jobs going on at the same time, working full time, I was still doing consulting on the side. And when my last full-time job role ended, that was at the beginning of 2022, I just thought, well, why don't I just try to see what I can do if I just went consulting 100% full time? Not really even thinking that it would work into like a full-time role. It was just going to be my in-between time to take a few jobs to figure out where I really wanted to go from like a corporate perspective. And then people just kept coming. And I kept educating clients or customers on what marketing really was. And they were now listening, where before it was kind of falling on deaf ears. Yeah, we know what marketing is. Yes, our logo, whatever.
Right.
So it really just kind of transpired, I will say, fairly easily, even though I will say I'm very risk averse and I was scared to death I wouldn't be able to make it on my own. But the universe proved me wrong. And ever since then, I've had I put sort of like a logo to my LLC. I had this LLC that I created at least 15 years back. And of course, it's my initials, LBIngenuity, not
Right.
thinking anybody would ever see this thing.
Right.
Then I started getting calls for more clients, or clients asking me if I could do some work here. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have something here. I think I can turn this into an actual company. And oh my gosh, but the only thing I have is this LLC. So I just put a logo to it and kind of just went full steam ahead with it. And so glad now that I did. But it was a little, it was testing me. It was definitely testing me, because I felt like I always had this fear of failure, and everybody I think has that to some degree. But it's worked out, and everything is going great, and I'm a survivor. So I think it's at the point where it's like I'm a hard worker, and I've been pushing so hard too, and like a corporate structure, which gives you a lot of stability and security, especially as someone like me. But also, never really felt like I could achieve the level of success, or not even success. Like, it's not about really money or titles. It's just the satisfaction that you get from teaching people and helping solve their problems, like you can when you have your own business.
No, I love this, because you talked a lot about the risk, the fear, overcoming that, positioning yourself, using your skill set, from the marketing side to have a greater impact specifically within the healthcare industry. So I'm interested to know that, like, okay, so it kind of fast forwarded things, that it kicked things off to where I understood that, this is the perfect time for me to explore, to help other people. And then if you fast forward, here we are in 2025, your calendar's blowing up because people see an opportunity in connecting and using your services and such. But I'm interested to know today, help me understand, like, what exactly does your business do today and how do you help organizations?
Yeah, sure. So that is always a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been trying to, and you know this because you've been in sales so long. It's like, how do I describe this? And I think I finally got it down to saying that I'm a marketing consultancy specializing in aging industry. So what does that include? That includes things such as attracting and retaining new clients or partners, you know, strategies for that, go-to-market strategies for startup age tech companies, identifying value propositions, points of differentiation, or you know how to best use your tech stack for marketing. And a lot of it is really corporate trainings and team trainings and master classes for like larger organizations to teach their sales teams how to adopt marketing tools and how they can do things a little bit easier than the old traditional ways that we used to reach out and try to do business development.
That's awesome.
How did I do? How did
That's
I do?
a lot.
Did that make sense at all?
That's a lot. So if you know, in your mind, if you hadn't found healthcare and then started this company, what do you think you would have been doing with your life?
Well, when I was growing up as a little kid, even though I was painfully shy and didn't want to talk to anybody, I probably would have been a teacher. I always thought it'd be so cool to be a teacher outside of, hey, because we get all these summers off, you know, gets whole summer
Right.
break off, you know,
Right.
you could drink Coke in front of everybody and they didn't care. All these, you know, but I always had a knack or at least an interest at explaining things to people, or I would say teaching in some capacity. And now I kind of see it. I guess I didn't really draw the parallel until maybe in the last year or so. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really still teaching. Like I'm teaching people how to effectively identify gaps in their marketing systems and tighten it up, or identifying what strategy that they need to use to get to the next level of success for their business. So I think it's about the same, to be honest, but I didn't see it until maybe about a year ago. I was like, you know, your lifelong dream was to be a teacher, and hey,
Right.
that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, you're a teacher now. That's what you're doing. That is awesome. I'm loving this. Okay, so what misconceptions, right, does your industry face, and how do you help solve them?
Well, I'll just, there's probably tons in different areas and buckets, but as it applies to marketing, is the misconception has historically been that marketing doesn't add a whole lot of value to an organization, that it's the fluff and butter, it's the, you know, it's the presence, it's how you want to present or portray your story, or how you show up for your brand. But, you know, it is that. But it's also what I like to say, it's the meat and potatoes of an organization, because it really is the glue for all of the departments. Because marketing, in a sense, is communication. And there's a lot of stakeholders, as you know, in senior health care, from investors to clients to partners to even your internal teams. And if you're not communicating effectively with all of those at the same time, you won't see the maximum growth potential that your organization can have. So marketing is really now, if it used to be the fluff and butter, maybe in 1999 when I was coming through college, now it's definitely the meat and potatoes of an organization.
Yeah, you're right. It's like nowadays, if you look at these commercials on TV, you're like, that brand wouldn't have been anything without the marketing that you see today. So it does feel like marketing has like positioned itself even more so than sales in a sense, but which is strange, but I'm loving it. I'm like,
well, it definitely needs to work together. And, you know, it's tricky a little bit in the aging industry, because we touched on this a little bit earlier, is, you know, senior living and senior care organizations, you know, they're doing, one person's doing dual work there, because they got to be a really good marketer and a really good salesperson. And people can do it and be successful, but there's only so much time in a day. Like even if you're a master marketer and a master salesperson, there's just so much traction you're going to make. And then for like, say, digital health companies or bigger organizations that have the luxury of having a dedicated marketing team, typically the problem historically in those have been, you know, marketing's siloed. So you got marketing trying to help sales, and there's a lot of finger pointing back and forth, you know, like we've seen all of those movies where like, hey, we sent you all these leads. Well, all of these leads were junk leads, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, we can't help you. You can't close the deal. Ha ha ha.
Exactly.
So I think that's definitely getting better too. In the last few years, I've seen as to, hey, we're not finger pointing anymore. We're working toward the same goal or the same KPIs. So it's really just about how to work better and smarter together.
Be honest with me here, Lori Beth, because I got to ask you, like senior living, you've been into quite some time. I remember starting out in it as well before I found technology sales. Is there an effective strategy that we can use nowadays to help senior living? Because it feels like everybody's using the same techniques to market their communities, their facilities, their business practices, and it doesn't feel like it's actually growing. Am I wrong?
So it's almost like the technology side is there's things that sales and marketing people in senior living can do, but it's the problem of the adoption of those strategies.
Okay.
There's not enough time in the day, I mean, I remember working in senior living and you're beating the street all day doing your community outreach to get those referrals coming in. And then you're touring families. And then in the middle of the tour, you're changing a diaper because nobody else is on duty because now we have the workforce shortage.
Right.
And we did back then too, just saying. And
Right.
so just on so many hours in a day. And then it puts up a barrier to, like we'd love to learn all of these new techniques and strategies so we don't have to beat the street 8 hours out of our workday. But I just don't even have the capacity or bandwidth to even feel like I can even learn it and then adopt it. So even if we're doing the trainings, it's still maybe, I think, a barrier to enforcing the adoption of such strategies and techniques. But people are getting there, and now they're wanting to add more time back into their day. So they're really looking at technologies, their tech stacks, their CRMs, and to really make them work for like their marketing purposes too, or to help if you're in a large organization and have support of a corporate marketing team to help you generate materials. How can we do that better and faster so it's more personalized?
Good stuff. So I want to pivot really quick, and then I want to come back. You're doing a lot. You're a marketer, you're a business owner, you help businesses really scale, help them tell their story, specifically in the senior living space. But how do you separate like your professional life from your personal life?
So, well, everybody that knows me will say that I don't, and I haven't been. And that's a problem that I realized last year that, you can't pour from an empty cup. So last year I made a really promise to myself, I guess, basically was that, hey, I've got to put some time to my personal health and my personal wellness, because if I'm not doing well, my clients won't be doing well, and I won't be able to have the momentum or energy to get any other new clients or help my repeat clients or anything like that. So 2024 was scratching the surface of trying to add some more personal time, like meditation, yoga, mind, body, little trash TV here on the side.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit of that.
And then 2025, I hope to keep adding to that. So, 80-hour weeks does no good for anyone, even if you're your own business owner. So, I think, I've been ingrained just to work and very, very type A and hyper vigilant on my professional side of the house. And, now on the personal side of the house, as I'm getting older and realizing not that time is of the essence, but you never know as to what do I really want to do? How do I want to enjoy some downtime?
I love this. And in your opinion, what things are holding people back from achieving their goals?
I think it's fear and perfectionism. Yes, I think those are the two top evils. I was affected by these as well. I think people have a fear of, number one, it not being the right perfect timing at the right precise time to actually take a move or make action on it, or have the fear of making a mistake. And guess what? Mistakes, I don't even like to use the word mistakes anymore because it has a negative connotation. I say it's just a half misstep here and a half misstep there is really your best point of discovery. So if you take those missteps and then you put it into coming back stronger, taking data or whatever you've learned from the missteps, then it relieves any fear. There are no mistakes. There are no missteps. You just have to keep moving forward. Don't let fear get the best of you. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I just say to anybody too, if me, a painfully shy, introverted Southern girl, can end up doing it, and anyone can overcome their fears. It's just like a mind thing. So yeah, I just think, and people wait for everything to be perfect. Like,
Sure.
even if you just think about work in general, like marketing strategies or tactics. Hey, we can't send this campaign out until everything's perfect on
Right.
it. Guess what? It's never going to be perfect. Then you're never going to send it out, and then you're never going to get a customer or client. So it's just like, we can't be caught up in perfectionism, especially now. I mean, like, how much content is now going out on all the social media platforms. It can't be perfect.
I like what you said. It's removing the negativity out of failure, right? And what you said is, you use the word half misstep. So instead of using it as, I failed in this particular area, it was just a misstep. And guess what? I have an opportunity to correct that and still pivot and move forward. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's your best point of discovery. That's what I call it.
Best point of discovery.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So today, you did a little bit about your company. What impact are you trying to make? And what's your ideal client?
So the impact I'm trying to make, I guess at the end of the day, just the long and short of it is, although we're creating growth solutions for anyone selling a product to or for seniors, so that could be anything from senior living, senior care to age tech companies. The real impact is trying to educate people on marketing and the importance of marketing and how it really does touch every department of an organization. And also, now that I'm a female business owner, encouraging other people and young women to don't be afraid to go after your dreams. Like, don't be afraid to do it. If you have a hunger for it, you're going to succeed. Just go after it.
You're tapping on for it's almost like you have the questions in front of you, but that was my segue into, like, what advice would you give other people interested in, like, seeking a similar path or following in your footsteps?
Yeah, like, again, don't get caught up in semantics. Don't everything is your interpretation of it. So there is no failure, there is no fear. And when you can change your mindset on that, then you can really do and achieve anything. It's taken me over 40 years to figure it out. So if I can share any nugget of that knowledge and someone use it at a younger age, boy, what could they do? They could achieve a lot.
So outside of working within your industry and focusing on your business, you have like a passion project, or are there things that you like to talk about where people can tap in and learn more?
Yeah, so I am on the board of a nonprofit here in Chicagoland area. It's called HOME, and it stands for Housing Opportunities and Maintenance for the Elderly. And it's doing really great work across Chicagoland and the city of Chicago for helping with home repairs, intergenerational housing for low-income elderly and seniors here in Chicago area. So it's one of my passion projects. And there's so many other nonprofits, not only nationally and here locally from, now that I'm here in the Chicago suburbs, but that's the one that I feel like that I got introduced to years ago and got involved with. And it's the one that makes the most sense and that I'm very passionate about. So we're always recruiting interest and volunteers, even from afar. You don't have to be local to participate and join our cause.
That is awesome. So the question here is, you did the pivot during the pandemic. You've learned a lot. You're helping the senior living industry really understand how to better and more effectively market their products and services, right? You have to, and maybe you do or maybe you don't. And maybe as you continue to build out your brand, but do you have like a podcast or like a social presence where people continue to follow your journey and tap into what you're doing behind the scenes?
So I haven't forged into a podcast yet because there's so many great ones out there, and you can't beat yours, Patrick. So
you can't.
I cannot beat yours. So I haven't forged into the podcast world yet, but I do have a strong social presence. I have a lot of speaking opportunities. I've been a keynote speaker over the past couple of years at some industry events, so people can find me there. I'm a top voice on LinkedIn, so that's probably the easiest way people usually find me, organically through LinkedIn. And feel free to shoot me a DM on there or connect with me. I'm always open and looking to learn about more people that are in our industry and interested about marketing. And then a website, LBIngenuity.com. That's my company website, and people can contact me there anytime and, drop me an old-fashioned email or, whatever's the easiest these days.
All right, so I'm gonna close this out here in a minute, or I'm gonna start to close this out. But what I would like you to think about, is the lasting parting words that you would like to leave everybody with. So here I go. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Health Hustle Chronicles, where the grind meets growth in the world of healthcare. As you know, this ain't your typical podcast, because I bring you the freshest, the livest guests from around the world, Craig. And today we had our very own Lori Beth Irvin. She's an award-winning global marketing executive with over 20 years of healthcare experience and has dedicated over a decade to senior living and senior healthcare. Having been a caregiver to many generations of family, including her mother, Lori Beth, she's dedicated to advancing outcomes for older adults. She's also the founder and CEO of LBIngenuity, which is an LLC, a boutique marketing consultancy agency specializing in the aging industry. She also has shaped and scaled a variety of organizations throughout the care continuum with smart growth marketing strategies. And today we're just kind of digging into her background. She's shedding light on what that hustle journey looks like to achieving a level of success. We talked about overcoming fear and then learning how to pivot so we can focus on those growth things. So Lori Beth, I would like to turn the tables back to you. Close us out. Any parting words you would like to leave with our viewers?
I think I would just say that marketing connects every part of your business, and smart marketing and growth starts from the inside out. So your biggest advocates and your best salespeople are always going to be the people that you put first, which is your internal teams, clients, and partners. And once you have that, then you have the marketing magic, and then you're off to the races.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. It's almost like you took my words. That was great.
It's so crazy.
That is awesome. I loved it.